Today is July 18, 2008. We're at the Burleson Public Library. This interview is for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. My name is Robert Griffith, and assisting me is Dale Dexheimer, both volunteers with the Burleson Heritage Foundation. We have here today Mr. Carl H. Fair, who served in the Seabees during World War II, from 1943 to 1946. Mr. Fair, thank you very much for being here. Would you please introduce me to your wife and then start out by telling me where you were from and how you got into the service?
Thank you. This is Nina, my bride of 60 years as of last month. And the question was?
Well, where were you born?
I was born in West Texas. I was the 9th of 13 children, and I was the first born in the state of Texas. So I was the first native Texan. I was born in Dawson County, La Mesa, the county seat, out in the country. At that time, we didn't go to my parents didn't go to the hospital for the children to be born. We were born at home. We lived there for a number of years. I graduated from grade school there at a little community named Key, just out of La Mesa, about 12 miles. And before I graduated at a little country school out Brownfield in Terry County, I went to 3 different schools before I graduated from high school. I went to La Mesa, Seminole, and then Union in Terry County.
Tell me about your family. You're one of 13 children. What was growing up among 13 kids like?
Well, we were farmers. My dad was sharecropper, and all the children worked. It was a lot different from what it is now. We had to work if we made a living. My dad couldn't do it all by himself, or my mother. I remember during the Depression, we had a crop failure. We went out to Roby, Anson, Trent, and in there pulling bowls, 40 cents a hundred. And we lived in an old barn that had a petition. One night, heard a big racket, and these
big rats.
The rats had got into our staple goods, and we killed some 30 to 40 rats. And that's the kind of conditions we had to work under sometimes. We were poor, but we didn't know it. We had a lot of love.
How did you get into the service?
Well, after I graduated from high school, I heard that the Seabees, Navy Seabees, were taking men, so I just volunteered instead of waiting to be drafted. And
where did you volunteer at?
At La Mesa, Brownfield, I'm sorry. And when I got home, one of my buddies that I graduated from high school with, he said, "Why didn't you tell me that you were going to volunteer?" He said, "I would have gone with you." I said, "Well, it's not too late." So he went and volunteered, and then another one of our good friends went in with us, and we were all stayed in the same battalion, 103rd Navy Seabees, and it made it a lot easier. We didn't get to come home. We had no telephone. I thought it was a big deal because we could send our mail out without having to pay for a stamp. Stamp then, I think, was about 3 cents, 9 cents for air mail. We just write on there that it is air mail, and sometimes they'd get there a little quicker. But,
Well, when you entered the service, where did you first go?
well, we went from Brownsville to Dallas to take a test, and gave us our rating, which was fireman first class.
Was that something you selected to become a fireman, or?
No, they just, actually I was driving a truck part-time, and I got that as a machinist, actually as fireman first class, which was equal to machinist mate, and they changed it over to machinist mate later after we went through boot camp. And,
Tell me some of the different places you received your training.
well, boot training was at Camp Perry, Virginia, and from there we went to Rhode Island to Camp Endicott for advanced training, and then we went to Maine, which is Camp Lee Stevenson, close to Eastport, about 2 miles out of Eastport. And we had advanced training there and spent the winter getting ready to, they told us they're gonna be sending us to Russia. And we wound up going to the Pacific after we went back to Rhode Island, New York, Long Beach, then out to California, and several places there. We were kind of a show battalion, did a lot of marching, and they just said we was a show battalion before we went overseas. Went to Hawaii for a couple of months and then on to Guam, where we spent the rest of the time.
Earlier, you told me that you had seen Pearl Harbor. Was that while you were in Hawaii?
Yes,
Going to
we
Guam?
were at Pearl Harbor.
What was it like being in such a place that had been attacked?
Well, it was pretty rough looking even when we were there, where the ships were all sunk and everything, but nothing like it was right after it was bombed. But
Had you ever been outside of Texas or the United States before?
just New Mexico, and I've made quite a few of the states into Canada, and
Well, you're in Guam. What happens in Guam?
well, I was a bulldozer operator, and we worked on the B-29 airstrips. We built roads. We built a radio tower, and after the war was over, I spent a little time kind of taking a vacation. Had a native there that I trained. I'd just go down and sign the muster sheet. From there, go back to my tent and read, play tennis, whatever for a while. But after I'd done this a month or so, the chief petty officer, where we signed in the muster sheet, asked me where I'd been. I said, well, I've been on a little vacation, Chief. You need anything? He said, yes, I got a special job I want you to do. He said, we're going to take down the landmark of the island of Guam, which was an old factory stack that was metal. And he says, and you're going to be the one that pulls it down. So after they got it all ready and hooked me up to it with a long cable, I asked the officer, I said, are you sure this is not going to fall on top of me? He says, No, we know exactly where it's gonna fall. But whenever I took the slack out of the cable and it started coming down, I went just as far as I could before it hit. But it landed just where he said it would. So he gave us a day off, like we hadn't had a day off in a while. And had a little party. Everyone got drunk except me. I was a teetotaler. And so I had to be the designated driver to get everyone back to camp. We had a lot of fun as well as it was kind of scary at times. I had a few narrow escapes on the dozer.
What were some of your duties besides being on the bulldozer?
Well, I've had anything from KP to guard duty and whatever they wanted me to do.
At the time, what did you think of your service? What did you think of what you were doing?
I was proud that I did volunteer for the Seabees. I was fortunate that I wasn't in any battles, and I didn't know when I went in what it would be like. But if I ever had to go in again, I would try to get back in the Seabees. I know a few people that have been in the Seabees recently, talked to, and they were good to us.
Tell me a little more about the Seabees. What did they do?
Well, you ever see the John Wayne movie? It wasn't quite like it was then, but it was fun to watch the movie. Anyone that knew John Wayne, but actually the Seabees, we didn't stay on the water on a ship. We never were assigned to a ship, and we were on land, and I preferred to be on land rather than on a ship. I've been seasick. I know what it is, and it's no fun.
Well, tell me a little more about the people that you met while on Guam. Some of the natives or some of the Japs.
Well, when we first got there, they were living in Quonset huts. I mean, not Quonset huts, in straw huts. They were very, very poor people. And the Seabees, the doctors treated those people that were so sick, and they were just covered with sores and one thing and another. They were real pitiful to look at, but I don't think they had been treated well until the United States had taken over the island. There was still a lot of Japanese servicemen still there. They'd hide out in the caves at night. They'd come out. I've even seen them late in the evening fishing, but they weren't bothering anyone. As long as we didn't bother them, they didn't bother us. So they lived on coconuts and bananas and whatever they could find. And you could see the signs where they'd been, especially when I was clearing areas with a bulldozer.
What were some of the men that you served with like? You said you had two friends that went in with you.
Yes, I had one that graduated from high school. We were the best of friends, so we went in together. And then another man that we knew real well, he decided he'd go too, and we were all placed in the 103rd Navy Seabees after our boot training, and we stayed together in the same company all the way through, and we exchanged information from home,
You wrote back to home, and so did your friends. What did you write in your letters?
Well, we couldn't, for a long time, we weren't able to write where we were or anything like that. They were censored. But they eventually found out that I was on Guam because I had a brother that was in the regular Navy came to see me there. And whenever he got in touch with the family, he let them know where I was at.
So you met your brother while you were. Did you have any other
Yes.
siblings that were in the service?
I had two other brothers. I had another one that was in the Navy for just a short time. He had shot his foot and in an accident and was discharged early. And I had my younger brother was in the Army in the Korean War. So there's, out of the 5 brothers, there's 4 of us went in the service.
We're continuing our interview. Mr. Fair, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about where you were when Japan was defeated?
Well, I was on the island of Guam there when we heard that the Germans had been defeated. So we were just in hopes that it would soon be over in the Pacific as well. And when I heard about them bombing, I think they call it, I don't think they call it Hiroshima now, but at that time that's what we would call it when they bombed. And I knew that that atomic bomb was something else, and we just all felt that maybe that would end the war. Of course, we know now that it took more than one bomb before they surrendered, but it was really something to know that we were going to go home. Of course, being single at the time, I didn't have enough points to go home. We had to wait. Of course, we signed up for duration of the war plus 6 months, and I was in there at least 6 months after the war was over. But we knew that we were eventually going to get to go home, and when our ship we finally got a ship to come home on. We were headed for San Francisco, and they decided, no, we're going to go to San Diego. And when we got to, it was real foggy. Of course, California was pretty foggy most of the time. And they had a band there, and I thought, man, this is something else. They're cheering us home. And just the thought of remembering that we were coming in was kind of heartwarming. But I got my discharge after we landed at San Diego. They sent us, some of us that were from Texas, on up to Long Beach, California, and me and my buddies came. They asked us if we wanted to ride the train, and since I drove the train so much, we decided we'd get home quicker on the bus. So we told that bus driver, said, you kind of push it a little bit. If you get a ticket, we'll pay for it. At that time, they paid us 6 cents a mile from the point where we were discharged. Of course, we thought that was big money at that time. And anyway, we made it through El Paso and then on home. And that was the first time I'd been home since I went in, since I had one leave when I was stationed in Maine. That's the first time I got to come home.
What have you been doing the last 63 years?
Well, the first three, before I met my wife or before we married, I worked at a place building trailer houses. After we made our bus trip and got home for only the second time I've been home in the 3 years I was in service, I got a job at building trailer houses and worked there for about 5 to 6 years. And I was working there when I met my wife. There, she was playing basketball there for Burleson team. And we were married on June 12th of 48, so we've been married 60 years. So I've been busy trying to make them a living. I went to work for the railroad after I quit the job there to travel at.
54.
Went to work in 54 for the railroad. I had 31 years with them before I retired 22 years ago.
What did you do with the railroad?
I was an electrician, diesel electrician in the shops, and had to make a few road trips, troubleshooting and all. They sent me out one night. I was working the second trick, and about quitting time at 11:30, they sent me on the road. And Nida didn't know where I was at. I told them to let her know that I'd gone out on the road, and I wound up going all the way to Texarkana and got back the next day about time to go to work again. And she was about ready to call the police. Instead, she woke the foreman up at home to find out, and he didn't know, but he found out where I was at. We had a lot of fun, and we're raising cattle now, a few cattle. I work harder now since I retired than I ever did before. And I'm 84 now, and I still get out there and feed the cattle and take care of them. She has a few ducks and geese and chickens, and cats and dogs. Keeps us busy. We stay out of trouble.
We have 4 children.
We have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. My baby is the girl, and she's now 51. So she's still the baby.
Well, tell me, do you stay in contact with anyone you served with, or those friends that you were in the service with?
Well,
Died.
the one that I graduated from high school passed away a short time ago. I sure miss him. We're members of the Covington Church of Christ. I'm an elder there, and we stay busy with the work there at the church. We have several orphans' homes that we work with.
What do you think the people of my generation should think of your service? What should people my age think of World War II and of your generation?
I don't know. I really don't know. Sometimes I feel sorry for the men that's in Iraq and in those places, but at least they can talk to the family, and they don't have to stay away as long. But it's a lot different now. When we didn't have any electricity, we didn't have any TV,
Phones.
no phones, anything. The only way we could communicate was by letter. Sometimes you'd go a month or so without hearing from the family. Made it kind of hard at times.
Would you like to show some of what you brought with you, some of the pictures?
Well, this is my platoon. I was in Company A4, and this is my discharge paper. That was a letter from Harry Truman. And
Here's your letter from Harry Truman,
and a few.
Secretary.
I tried to keep all my papers that I got, but this one is from James Forrestal. That was the Secretary of the Navy. And then this one was from Harry Truman.
And this is your honorable discharge paper.
Yeah, discharge papers and all. Got a picture of me when I
Hold that up for just a minute.
Look at that
Look
good
at
looking
that.
young man. She probably lost her dribble the first time she saw that good looking guy.
I didn't see him in his uniform.
I've got my uniform, but I can't get in them anymore. But,
And then there's your picture of when you
oh, that's
was 18 years old.
just a kid.
Now, I see you have a book with you.
And I've got my tour of duty book, tells all about, got all the pictures in it. I meant to tell you about the man that did this logo of the Seabees. He was from Fort Worth, and we just read recently about him dying. It was in the Star Telegram, Fort Worth Star Telegram, and he designed this for the Seabees. And we have the clipping out of the paper at home. It was real interesting. Had I known he was there, I would have looked him up.
See, he drew all of these.
Yeah, this is some of our officers, and he did all the drawing, the cartoons and everything. He was something else. I don't remember his name, but I never met him. He wasn't in our battalion.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I don't guess there is. Probably think of something later, but
I want to
it's
thank
really
you.
nice of y'all to do this for us. I want to thank you.
And I want to thank you for your service and for coming up here from Covington to see us and for bringing all of this in. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to speak with you and your wife and learn a little bit about you.